being in a more public sphere over the last 6, 7 years and just being more visible. I feel like I'm finally starting to feel comfortable to show up as my more full self. And Sarah, you mentioned this. It's so weird to take our phones and film ourselves speaking to our phones. It's almost like if you think too hard about it, your brain breaks. You're like, wait.
There's a perfectionism that can overtake if you overthink. I think it's such a journey.
So we've all been behind the scenes, building companies, building families, building relationships for so many years. And in the last few years, we've all sort of stepped to the front of the stage and played with creating content, putting ourselves out there, sharing our message, really taking a stand for our voice in the universe. And so we wanted to have a little conversation about what we've all learned through the content creation process. And so I wanted to ask you guys, what does creating content look like for you? What are you putting out there? And what are the fears that come with that?
I want Jess to go first.
So I just launched my YouTube channel, which is the first little project that I've done that I felt like really shows a lot of sides of me, more sides that I'm used to sharing, a little bit of my goofy side, a little more of my humor, some tips, but yeah, it just feels like a different embodiment of self. And even in doing that, I was reflecting back on, as a kid, my parents gave us cameras. We filmed all of our childhood movie scenes. I gotta get these VHS tapes converted to something I can use at some point. But everything was on camera. And then I think of the Facebook era. I documented, Grace, we were talking about this, every weekend out with friends. I had a new photo album of here is the documentation of our weekend partying. Had to remove all of those albums because they're insane. But it feels very familiar to document life and then share it and all of these things. But once I started working with and for different companies where it's there's a credibility factor here. You have to be mindful of what you say and there has to be strategy behind it. And it's not just a platform of self-expression for self-expression's sake, be really intentional. I think I sort of hid during that season. I was like, okay, let's just put our business front forward. That's what it is. And I didn't really feel like I had an outlet for all of those things. And now kind of being in a more public sphere over the last, 6, 7 years and hosting a podcast and just being more visible, I feel like I'm finally starting to feel comfortable to show up as my more full self versus just compartmentalizing all these pieces. And in doing so, it feels a lot. I think that's why I like YouTube, because it's it's fresh. It's new. I can launch it whereas my Instagram, I'm I typically show up this way on here. But I am edging towards more fullness there. Long-winded way of saying it's a journey.
I think it's such a journey.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up documenting and putting things online. And, we have some video from when I was younger, but it's mostly photo albums. And, my parents were great at taking pictures when we were on vacation. But my mom was also horrible in that she used to if one of us had a temper tantrum or if I was crying uncontrollably, she'd be like, if you don't stop, I'm going to take a picture of you. I know, isn't that horrible? And would get out the camera. So we all have photos of us. There's one of me and I think I'm sitting on the floor. I'm going to find it. Gingham check dress, sobbing, red hair everywhere, and that was the moment I didn't stop crying. Or go to your room. And when you're done crying, you can come and join us again.
Wow.
This sort of, we only want to see certain parts of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm recognizing how much that influences my showing up online.
Mm-hmm.
That coupled with this message I got just over and over drilled into me, which was don't boast, be humble, don't brag, don't get too big for your britches, don't be seen, not heard. You didn't want to bring attention to yourself, humility at all costs. I could keep going on and on. Very much rooted in my Catholic upbringing too,
Mm-hmm.
don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. That's like straight out of the Bible, right? It's hard for me, because those filters play out. Like, is this bragging? Like, what is authentic? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I feel really, really great right now. Like, really good. I mean, I'm like glowing from the inside out. I am so happy. My life is like, there's some really challenging things right now in my life. We're on the brink of trying to cure Will's sickle cell and kidney disease, and Callie's still battling Lyme, and I have a kid in third grade. Like real
A
stuff.
lot.
Okay. At the same time, I have never been happier. Like, I feel great. I have the world by the tail, and I'm almost afraid to say it and put it out there
Mm-hmm.
for fear that it's going to be viewed as like, oh, look at her go again. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's this culture of like the suffering, overwhelmed mother who is
Mm.
just doing so much. She has no time for herself. She can't even shower.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't
Mm.
even put on mascara today. I didn't have time to get dressed. I'm still in my yoga pants, but I nenever even went to yoga. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I only ate a rice cake because I had no time to make a meal for myself. I'm living on coffee. That is not my life. And I feel a certain sense of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And when I put stuff out there, I worry about how it's going to be perceived. And I
Mm-hmm.
try to post and not look and not care about what the comments are, but I care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very deeply caring person. This social media thing is really, really hard for me. And yet I know it's important to build this brand. It's important for a lot of the other things I want to do that I'm working on in the background, in the back, behind the scenes here that are not really related to the podcast. And I just gave you like a whole soliloquy of all the things that are running in the back of my head when I pick up my phone and look at it and hit record. I'm like,
It's
it's
so relatable.
it's hard.
100%.
One thing that I've been thinking about, and I want to write a Substack about this, is about how now we live in like two universes at once. There's like the digital universe and there's the physical universe. And so it's almost like, are you going to opt in or opt out of like showing up in this digital universe? Like, it's no longer like we mostly live in the physical reality and then we brag a little bit online sometimes. It's like, are you going to be in the conversation online? Are you going to help shape culture online? Are you going to help influence and share and add value online? Or are you going to just opt out of that reality entirely? And if you do opt out of sharing, we're still consuming. So then you're just still
Yeah.
just sitting on the sidelines, like
Mm.
absorbing stuff from other people, just being a lurker. And so I think this whole thing about like being yourself online, if we could more mirror how our energy works in real life, like in real life, like we are outgoing, we do share things, we do add value, we do help others. How can we do that online? How can we show up in the way that we show up in real life? So it's less about like content strategy and it's more about like just participating in this like new version of reality that exists and deciding if you want to be a voice or not there. And when I think about it like that, it sort of unlocks this thing where it's like, oh, it's not actually about bragging or not bragging or sharing an outfit or not sharing an outfit. It's just about existing in this plane of reality that, like, unfortunately is becoming like such a big part of our universe. And deciding to be a creator instead of a consumer all of the time. And that makes it feel really exciting. You can be like, wow, what reality am I going to create, in this like new dimension that we all unfortunately exist in like half of the day now. Um,
Mm.
so that's how I like to think about
Mm.
it.
There is something so meta that happens, like, for lack of a better word, meta, but that happens. And Sarah, you mentioned this the other day. You're like, it's so weird to like take our phones and film ourselves speaking to our phones. Like, it's almost like if you think too hard about it, your brain breaks. You're like, wait. You like remember your lifetimes
Mhm.
before where phones didn't exist, and you're like
Mhm.
suddenly seeing your future self as like some futuristic robot that's like talking to their phone. Like, you have to almost like detach from it and think back to kind of what you were saying, Grace, that purpose, that how do I want to express? Like, how do I feel like I can contribute to the conversation in a positive way or in a way that feels in alignment or is like moving the culture in a way? And sometimes that contribution is your energy. Like so many people think they have to be the expert or the teacher or the this. Sometimes it's Sarah showing her outfit videos. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
and seeing that, you feel people's energy online, I think,
Mm-hmm.
too. And people are sensing that more and more and more. But I feel like the content conversation has swung so much in a everyone's an expert trying to sell you something, and people are
Mm-hmm.
getting really fatigued from it. So they're like pulling back, which I'm hoping will create a resurgence of people being like, okay, what do I want to share? Like, what's on my heart? And when
Yeah.
people share that versus like, here's my, email funnel or DM me the word X,
Mm-hmm.
instead, they're just like, here's this thing. I thought it was interesting. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
leave this here. Do what you will with
Right.
it.
Yeah.
That stuff makes me way more excited about what's to come.
And I think, like, how can that all exist at once? Like,
Mhm.
in real life, we have business conversations and we're pitching each other things,
Mhm.
and we're also having deep conversations and we're having drop-ins. Like, it's like, how do you create a more holistic picture of like what a human experience is like? It's not
Mhm.
just like all selling and affiliate links, it's
Mhm.
like also those real moments dropped in. And I think also accepting that those two things can exist next to each other, right?
Mhm.
Like, you can have an inspiring thought and want to show off your handbag, or like you can be having fun with your family and you can be like going out for drinks with the girls on the weekend. And we don't have to live in such polarity of like, I am only a vessel for the light and I do not like material goods. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're always asked
No,
to
yeah.
wrestle with that.
I'm often struck by like, who cares what I think? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
This gets in my mind. And then I'll run into somebody who like really wants to know what I think.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Right? They're like, I heard your episode and I'm wondering what you think about, you know?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And I think we sell ourselves short too.
Mhm.
And there's this like I'm not enough,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mhm.
My message isn't refined enough. I haven't thought this through enough. I'm not the one that should be saying it. I'm not the expert, right? I
Mhm.
didn't read every book on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a perfectionism that can overtake you, I think, if you overthink
Mhm.
every single post, every statement,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I mean, I know I fall trap to that too. There must be a better way to say this,
Mhm.
or
Totally.
a more unique way. Yeah, that happens to me too.
And it is kind of the same sense of like, "Oh, I don't feel like going to the party. I don't have anything to give. What could I possibly have to share?" And then we have so much, and people are so blessed.
And the ability to have that balance, right? To know, like, that's why it's so much of an energetics game. It's to know, like, oh, today my energy is not to give out more things.
Mm-hmm.
Today my energy is like, I need to fill my own cup. I need to like get
Mm-hmm.
myself in the right mindset. And maybe in getting myself in the right mindset, tomorrow I will have an idea that might inspire or help someone in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
So it's also really knowing, it's kind of like a master class of self
Mm-hmm.
and masterclass of understanding our energy, purpose, gifts in
Mm-hmm.
that expression of sharing online too, in a way that feels so accountable. Like I have friends who they literally download Instagram once a week. They come on, they share one thing, and then they are off the app for the rest of the time. And like that's their scheduled posting, check up on everything. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like, I didn't know you could do that,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm also realizing that doing this takes time, like
Mm-hmm.
finding your voice. I mean, imagine trying to write your first novel. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
happen for most people. It doesn't happen in 6 months. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mhm.
it's sort of akin to that. Like this takes time, and if you didn't grow up with it, it might take longer.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And there's a
Mhm.
lot of noise and chatter and clutter,
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it might take even longer for that reason. So being a little kinder to myself and just being like, this will happen on the timeline it's supposed to happen on
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
has been helpful.